This cold and flu season, Instacart is here to help deliver all of your sick day essentials. Whether you're in prevention mode and need vitamins, hand sanitizer, and that lemon tea your Nana swears by, or you're in healing mode and need medicine, soup, and a lot more tissues. Simply download the Instacart app to get sick day supplies that reinvigorate or relieve delivered in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Excludes restaurant orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Create your oasis with Thuma, a modern design company crafting simple, elevated furniture from premium, eco-friendly materials. Thuma's core collection, the classic bed, nest dresser, and pillar bookshelf, combines the technique of Japanese joinery with thoughtful design for timeless style and lasting quality. Assembly is quick and easy, taking just 5-ish minutes with no tools required. Explore the full collection at thuma.co or visit their flagship location in New York City. For $100 off your first bed, head to thuma.co. That's thuma.co.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, one was a YouTube mom praised for her parenting skills. The other was a life coach who promoted family values. Then they were arrested for aggravated child abuse. We'll talk about the Hulu docuseries Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca. And now I'm an official ski race writer. So
I know. It's very exciting.
It's very exciting.
I saw your front page story drop today. I was very proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I took the pictures too. I'm having a little moment.
And finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of a City trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Kevin?
Yes.
This is Thursday's program.
It is.
What's coming up on Monday's show?
So on Monday, we're going to talk about the series that everybody is talking about on Netflix. It's called Adolescence.
I've certainly seen a lot of write-ups about it, including the New York Times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, guess what I did, just before this taping?
What did you just do?
I interviewed...
Did you record a different episode of Crime Writers On?
I did.
Yes.
But before that taping, I taped a podcast for You Can't Make This Up, the Netflix podcast that we make here at Partners in Crime Media with Netflix. And I got to interview Errol Morris today.
And what did Errol Morris do?
Well, he's an Academy Award-winning documentarian who's probably best known for The Thin Blue Line, which came out in the 80s, in which he looked at a wrongful conviction of a guy who was accused of killing a cop. And that documentary really explored, the Thin Blue Line. That's how that term got into, the popular lexicon, and the stories that people are willing to tell to put somebody away. And he investigated that case and got the guy out, essentially. And it was really the first granddaddy wrongful conviction media project that everybody knew about. So I think it's safe to say that he's the father of that kind of media. Don't you think, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, without the Thin Blue Line, there's no The Staircase, there's no Making a Murderer. Not only that, but also... And Toby, I'm sure that you remember watching this, but it was groundbreaking because it was among the first documentaries to use dramatic elements like recreations. And while they were very mild by today's standard, there wasn't actors and stuff, but they would do things like he would demonstrate the way headlights might go by and the way people, by sort of doing repetitive things but changing different things to sort of make points.
He was illustrating this prosecutor story and stuff, yeah. Yeah,
and so people who were pure documentarians were shocked by that, even though it was critically hailed in other places. And so
that's why it didn't get nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, it didn't even get nominated. Roger Ebert called it one of the biggest snubs of all time.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, Toby, Errol Morris has a new documentary out about MK Ultra and its potential interaction with a very famous crime. So that's what I talked to him about.
Nice. I read the book that it's based on.
All right.
Chaos?
Yeah, it's really good. And it's a good... Errol Morris, I mean, I'm sure other people have done it, but was sort of, I think, the first popular guy to kind of talk about what is real. And I think that was one of the things about Thin Blue Line. It was just there's a thing where there's taillights and they're showing the different kinds of taillights for different cars. And I can't remember the details, but somebody said they were square taillights or they're round taillights. And so he was showing what they look like and which car it was on made a big difference. He also did a look into the Fatal Vision murders where, again, it was like, what are the facts here and what are things that are inferred that aren't actually facts, but are things that people make assumptions about. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's been very, very influential on the best true crime. It didn't even really change. I mean, it sort of set up the way I kind of think about these things in a lot of ways. Because I saw that before I dove into the true crime thing by doing Crime Writers. I found it very intriguing.
So, Toby, Errol Morris is, I'm happy to report, extremely nice.
Yes, good.
Very smart, very soft-spoken, and one of those people where you're not 100% sure if he's finished with his sentence or not.
Yeah,
but
that's always nice.
What would happen would be, I figured it out, when he was actually finished with a statement, he'd have this huge smile on his face, like, wasn't that awesome what I just said? But like in a great way, not like in a annoying. He was wonderful. I love talking. It was a real dream come true. And listeners, if you want to check out that interview, it's out now on the You Can't Make This Up feed, and we talk about Chaos, the Charles Manson murders in that episode.
Well, let me also say that a week from today on Thursday, we will be reviewing Chaos, the Manson murders.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's a documentary. It's one part. It's on Netflix now. It's really interesting. All right, so Kevin, should we talk about the thing we're talking about on this episode?
How about we do that?
All right, leading off.
In my own journey over the years, I think I've come to understand evil in a way that most people don't. Things that people don't talk about.
Ruby Franke earned fame and fortune on her YouTube channel highlighting an ideal family life with her husband and 6 children. But that world crumbled when it was discovered her parenting style was more draconian than the loving image they portrayed on screen.
So everyone scrambles. Ruby takes the video down. But I think what she was unprepared for was the torrent of pure hatred that came through the door.
After she fell into the orbit of life coach Jodi Hildebrandt, Ruby becomes estranged from her husband and older children. But police took notice when Franke's youngest son knocked on the door of Hildebrandt's neighbor, severely emaciated and covered in duct tape.
He said that he had been tied up and that he had handcuffs on him. And he said, I have a younger sister in the home. And I was like, when did you see her last? And he said, it's been over a month.
From ABC Studios and streaming on Hulu, Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke, explores her journey from influencer to inmate and Hildebrandt's sway over the family. It includes interviews with her husband and children and access to 1,000 hours of raw video, which foreshadows the abuse to come. We're going to be talking about plot points from Devil in the Family, so if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So, Laura, this is a little bit different than the family vlogger-based documentary that we watched a few weeks ago. That there's this whole religious angle that really comes to the forefront that, Ruby had a very different kind of channel than we saw in that documentary where everyone's channels just seemed a lot more, let's just say, loose.
Yeah. No, this was definitely this is a, strict religious family. There are certain things we do and that we don't do. And it's very wholesome. They're cutting the gender reveal cake. They're doing little activities. Everything is, in the beginning scripted, but in a way that for me was not super relatable. I was like, this is not the type of parenting channel that I would be watching that I could relate to. But at the same time, it's just a very different type of experience with what they're showing with the children, and they're doing all their activities and everything. Seems like, boy, this is a wholesome family.
Yeah. So, Kevin, the whole opening to this documentary was so interesting to me. They open, of course, with Ruby Franke's son approaching the neighbor's doorbell and asking for help. And then there's this incredible, never-before-seen footage of her making a video and then stopping abruptly to scream at the children.
Is what I scheduled worth? Hey, I'm still recording! Come on! Why am I hearing all this noise?
So, Kevin, what did you think about the opening of this documentary in terms of a setup?
It was really gripping. Great way to start this documentary, especially for somebody like me who's coming into this cold. And we don't come back to that till the last episode. And in that opening shot, they don't really give away much about the severity of what's going on. So by holding that back, it becomes really shocking for us at the end. But I'd like to talk about the but.
Yeah.
We've never seen this. So we start off sort of with the usual whip around of everybody talking about what a lovely place this is.
Yes, what a perfect community.
Perfect community.
It's Pleasantville.
Yeah, which always comes, beautiful drone shot. Like, that's very cliche.
By the way, a lot of code for white in there, too.
Right. Right. And they're interviewing, like, this therapist, and he does the same thing. And then the interviewer says, but, and that cues the guy to sort of open up with a more honest answer about like what lies beneath. Now, this isn't Peyton Place, but as opposed to just all these platitudes, which we always get, this was a great cue. It like didn't really have to pull it out of him.
There's a but.
There is a but. They truly are happy, but they... Kyle, I gotta be careful what I say. They truly are happy, but they are stuck in a box.
It was the perfect way of drawing out that answer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so sublimely skillful. That was a much better way to set up what community this is besides, hey, everybody knows each other and we like living here.
Yeah. You know what the but was, Kevin?
What?
Was that they're Mormons and they feel all this pressure. And it's like a Desperate Housewives situation, right? Everybody's actually like sort of seething inside, which is something we get a peek of when the neighbors are all talking shit about the Frankies and
which they didn't mind doing.
Yeah,
they were okay with that.
But Toby, it descends into this religious fever state. What happens to Ruby and where Jodi ends up bringing her, but it doesn't escape my attention that this is also a story just about regular Mormons in some way. And I'm very conscious of the fact that we probably have Mormons, people who practice Mormon faith listening to this podcast. So I'm sorry if this comes across as offensive to you. But there, I think, was an opportunity there for an examination of Mormon culture and Mormonism that was a little bit of a missed opportunity, I think, here for me, because they sort of leaned on the extremism so much that they kind of glossed over the fact that Ruby was doing all this stuff before she joined this extremist culty thing. So what do you think about that?
It's just kind of funny, sort of mass media's, portrayal and attention to Mormons. Mm-hmm. I do feel as though it's more acceptable to kind of dump on Mormonism than it might be a lot of other religions. I'm not exactly sure why that is, other than that people, I think, who aren't Mormons think some of the stuff is kind of weird. I guess I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I guess I don't know enough about Mormonism to know if there is like a quote unquote Mormon culture that is sort of ubiquitous, or is it outside of the culture of a non-Mormon town of fairly wealthy white achievers? Is the pressure different? I mean, it seems like maybe it's a little bit different. So I was just surprised, and I guess we'll talk about Jodi. But this sort of self-help therapist, I guess, she's very influential in this town. And I guess she has like is that a YouTube thing or a public access thing? Like they show these kind of like really kind of shoddily produced videos.
I think it's YouTube, yeah.
That she does. So, I mean, I think that was another weird undercurrent in this town, is that this very, very popular woman is very, very odd.
And not liked.
Even before you find out about this other like super weird religious stuff, it's just like, this person is like kind of influential in this town. That seems very strange that people would be paying much attention to her.
Mormonism is interesting in pop culture. TikTok is dominated by Mormon content, content made by Mormons, dance content, makeup content, tradwife content. Not all Mormons are tradwives, but certainly a lot of the tradwives on TikTok are Mormons. Cooking content, music content. Mormons, by the way, are extremely musical. If you ever heard of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, it's a very like music-centered culture. That's why we saw a harp in somebody's house, Kevin. Like there's a lot of like instrument playing. Mm-hmm. It's a very white culture, and it is a very not closed off, but insular. Like the knowing each other, the networking. We had a Mormon friend who came to the state from wherever he grew up, Utah or whatever, and was hanging out at Mitt Romney's place on Lake Winnipesaukee because they knew each other through church, right? And so you see a lot of Mormons, like Derek and Julie Huff, those dancers are Mormons. Like a lot of celebrities, by the way, a lot are Mormons. It's something that, not necessarily sort of out there, but they are very centered in pop culture in that way. So there is something there. Well,
I don't want everybody's attention be diverted down this Mormon side trip here, because that's not really what this is about.
Except, Kevin, the opening shot.
But yes, right. But hear me out. We have had lots of content that dealt with Mormon crimes or victims or whatever, from Murder Among the Mormons to Stay Sweet. What was it? Keep Sweet, like all these different things. And other ones where people involved are highly religious, and it lends to, as we see in these things, their, we'll say, gullibility or their need to obey without questioning, and that ends up being part of the victimology of the different people. And so to that extent, that's what that is. But to me, this is way more about the vlog culture and how we get there. So, I mean, there's really more than just the Mormonism part of this.
Well, obviously a big part of the documentary centers around Kevin. And, I think that Mormonism is at the center of this documentary because there's an opening drone shot that centers the little thing on top of the Mormon church at Aspire. And then the closing shot also does the same. So I think that there's a message there that the filmmakers are trying to send. And Kevin certainly talks about how Mormonism infiltrated his courting of his wife, Ruby. I don't know if you remember this, Kevin, but she had a chart in her room, which talked about all the attributes she wanted in a man. And Mormon stuff was there on the left, along with all the other stuff. And that he then made himself into that man in order to get her and keep her. Laura, do you think this sort of goes along with what we see happening in their relationship later? Because he says yes to everything.
Oh, yeah. You see him they have the golden honeymoon era of their relationship after they've been having troubles, where all of a sudden you're seeing videos and pictures of them. They're almost like they're newly married again or something. But he just kind of goes along with everything that she wants to do.
I had no idea that this was going on in my family.
Did you really know?
Mm-mm. No, not to that extent.
They're like, okay, we're doing this channel. Okay, now our children are employees. Now our son is sleeping on a beanbag chair in the basement for however long because that's what the therapist, and he's like, yeah, and I went along with it. It was interesting to me that even now, he wasn't really holding her accountable for what had happened. I think he recognized that he didn't look good for having been complicit in this and for enabling it. But even now, he's like, yeah, I still miss her. I'm still in love with her. And I'm like, what is happening here? Do you know what I mean? What is happening with this guy? And then at the end, they're like, oh, and he's filed for divorce. I'm like, but did he really file for divorce? Or is that just for this documentary? Did he really file? I don't know.
Yeah. Toby, what is your take on Kevin? Because,
not me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He is at the center of this. He gets a lot of screen time, and I think a lot of people going into this had the feeling, there's no way that he wasn't complicit. We learned that she had separated herself from him when the worst abuse started happening, but certainly there was plenty of abuse going on right in front of him before that happened. So what are your thoughts about this guy?
He plays an interesting part in this. He, for the most part, I think, at least is portraying himself as being very, very open and just admitting to all these mistakes and sort of strange beliefs and being willing to do anything it takes to stay with his clearly very mentally ill wife. Again, it's always, he has to have some agenda, right? To sit down. There's a reason why he's sitting down with them. And I guess it's a little bit harder to pinpoint it exactly because he's not exactly defending her. Mm-hmm. I don't think. He's sort of reflective on the fact that he has defended her in the past. And my sense is that he kind of understands that he ought to regret that, even if maybe in his heart of hearts he doesn't, because it does seem like she's got a certain influence on him. But I mean, he's got no control in this relationship, right? I mean, she tells him to go and he goes and he doesn't come back.
He also, was interesting to me, put all of his insecurity out there. He talked about how when he felt really great, it was because he had gotten really fit. He was jacked for a while.
He was swole and some of the, what happened?
And he was like the captain of the men's club on the Zoom meetings. And he was basically like, I am an insecure, weak person. And for a while there, I was feeling like a badass. And that to me, it's not something you hear a man say very often, like just talking very openly about how insecure they are in their hearts and how, that may have played. By the way, I'm not defending Kevin. It's just things that I've observed, and I thought it was interesting that he was willing to go there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the jury's still out on Kevin. He's clearly is a victim of Ruby, but his hands aren't clean, right? He let Chad sleep on the floor for 7 months, too, and he spent the money.
It was a beanbag, Kevin. It was a beanbag.
Yeah, right. But he was clearly manipulated by Ruby and Jodi as well, and sort of played for a fool. But, he does take responsibility for some of his shortcomings, but, one of the first things we hear from him, he's basically, pointing the finger about, we let a devil into our house or whatever it was. It's just not a good look. But it's a really good look if you support us on Patreon.
Always.
Because by doing so, you are supporting and sustaining this podcast.
Independent creators.
That's right. Come get our art. Right. Patreon.com/partners in crime media. You get all sorts of exclusive stuff like the Crime Writers on After Show, Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, Married with Podcast, the relationship show, and we have the Readathon, which is Rebecca's take on the Karen retrial.
Your take too, Kevin.
Yeah, well, I'm just there along for the ride. But I will say that we're getting close to the second trial.
Allegedly getting close.
Yeah, and other folks are like, well, should I join Patreon? What if I just want that? You can purchase separately all of Rebecca's content on the Readathon if you wish. Patreon lets us do that. Now you can check that out. And I think you're going to like so much of it, you're going to join us for all of our other stuff, which includes Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast. This time, Laura goes snowshoeing.
Yes, and I live to see another day. Barely.
We also have Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, and if you come in as a deep diver, you'll get to watch Toby record with his panel. You can contribute in the chat, or if you even want to jump on the screen with Toby, he'll let you do that. The book that they're talking about next, the recording, is for the book Eden Undone. And Toby, who are your special guests?
My special guests are Allison Horrocks, Kate Tuttle, Bridget Keown, and Suzanne Rico.
Why do I know the name Suzanne Rico?
She was the host of The Man Who Calculated Death.
And she worked her ass off. Absolutely.
She worked her ass off.
We have an Amazon storefront where you can see some of our favorite things. That helps us keep the podcast going. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Well, Kevin, you've seen them, you know them, you love them. I'm talking about my Amicast pajama sets, right?
Ah, yes.
I love these things. They're so soft, so comfortable.
Just drape right off your body.
So squishy and comfy and cozy and cute, and I wear them all year round. They come in great colors. They've got piping. Whenever they very traditional looking pajama cut, every time I wear them, our son Teddy says, it looks like you should be carrying around a candle and a plate. Anyway, they're really, really
just
cute.
Need the hat.
I love them. It's Amicast with a double A at the beginning, and I will go ahead and post them on the homepage of our store.
And Toby, what are your listener-inspired Toby Ball's Deep Cut recommendations?
We're going to start off with the Garden of Eden corn tortilla chips, white chips with a touch of lime, 1 pound bag.
Garden of Eden.
Second up, this is, a classic gift. It's the Zoox USB-C to RCA audio cable Type-C to 2 RCA male jack plug, adapter car auxiliary stereo speaker, amp cord compatible with iPhone 16, 15, Samsung Pix.
Ah, I love a good RCA cable.
Yes, you do.
Those are the red and white ones in the that's called an RCA.
It's the good
adapter.
stuff.
That's classic. Now, what you should do is if you want Toby to perhaps single out your purchase, whether it's weird or not, you just shop us first at amazon.com/shop/crimewriterson. Take a look at our stuff, then do the rest of your shopping.
Do all your Amazon shopping.
Do all your shopping. Stop there first. Move it along. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
We do. Kevin.
Yes.
Before we end this business section, I've got a question for you.
Yes?
Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Jennifer Greenwood and Michelle Bartz. bless you.
Jennifer, Michelle, thank you so much for supporting our podcast. We are independent creators. We don't have some sort of Caroline D'Amore style deal backing this show. It's just us. And when you join our Patreon, you're helping us make what we do. And if you like it, we really appreciate when you support it. And that's why we give you so much stuff on Patreon, because we appreciate you. All right, Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
So much of what we want to do can seem impossible, but the highest achievers among us are the people still reaching for something. The ones who aren't satisfied to stay where they are and want to keep climbing higher. It's those people who approach the impossible and embrace it. There's a vehicle for people like that. It's called the Defender. The Defender is an icon, reimagined through thoroughly modern design. It's got a tough, rigid body design and durable, lightweight monocoque architecture for extra strength. With precise detailing and compelling proportions, the exterior of the Defender is designed with integrity. This is a vehicle capable of great things, engineered to meet challenges head-on, with an exterior that's been tested to the extreme. Experience the Defender's legendary capability, off-road and on. And there's a family of vehicles for Defender. Meet the Defender 90, Defender 110, and the 8-seat Defender 130. So are you ready to embrace the impossible? Explore the Defender at LandRoverUSA.com.
Kevin.
Yes.
I hear we have a very exciting sponsor coming up now.
Oh, yeah, it's our good friends from Quince.
My best friends from Quince.
Who can resist the good things in life? I know not you, Rebecca.
Nope.
While luxury is enjoyable, it's not always affordable, and that's where Quince comes in. All right, I'm going to throw out the rest of the script.
All right.
You just gave me a very nice gift.
That's right.
And by nice gift, something I didn't ask for. You surprised me with a gift from Quince.
That's right. It's a flannel shirt, but it's not made from flannel. It's made from like sweatshirt jersey material. It is so cozy. It looks like a flannel.
Yeah.
Feels like a sweatshirt. You look fantastic, but you feel luxurious and comfortable, and you are gorgeous in that shirt.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of thing you would expect from Quince because they offer such a range of high-quality items and prices within reach. In addition to that, you could get things like Mongolian cashmere sweaters for $50.
Sure.
And those washable silk tops and dresses,
Yep.
Organic cotton sweaters, and you know what they even have? Jewelry.
And furniture.
I believe I saw gold bars. No, I'm not fooling. I think they have gold. I don't know why. But hey, Quince, you got to do you, right? But if I want a gold bar, I know where I'm getting it.
Or a beautiful sectional.
Yeah.
So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/crime. To get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime. So, Kevin, who's the next sponsor for this fine program?
Oh, we're brought to you by HelloFresh.
HelloFresh.
Make deciding what's for dinner a lot easier with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. It's easy to find time to eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals to choose from each week delivered to your door. Plus, HelloFresh's new ready-made meals go from the fridge to your fork in just 3 minutes with all the same high-quality ingredients and restaurant-worthy flavor you can expect from HelloFresh.
Kevin, you know, there's a thing that people say about growing up, right? Growing up is just deciding what you're going to eat over and over and over again.
For
and
the rest of your life,
That's
yes.
hard, right?
Yes, it is very hard. Well, it can be hard, but it's easier for your family with HelloFresh because they put together great recipes and give you all. It's like they 3D printed these recipes.
Oh, wow.
They just come up and say, here's everything that you need. But sometimes, you don't even have enough time to get from one podcast recording to the next.
That's right.
I know a lot of people can relate to that situation.
Absolutely, much less decide what I'm going to eat later.
So these ready-made meals are fantastic. You pop them in the microwave and you've got some wonderful stuff to eat for your family right away.
So get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast.
HelloFresh Podcast.
One item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast.
HelloFresh Podcast.
So, Laura, two central voices in this documentary are Chad and Sherry, who are the two oldest kids of the Frankies. Sherry, I will say, does seem to be estranged from her parents because she calls them by their first names. Did not go unnoticed by me. But they definitely had some interesting perspectives, and I think were very frank, especially Chad. What did you think about their interviews on camera?
Yeah, so I thought this was super interesting because when you see that tape and you see the child who escaped and you kind of hear the allegations in this case and you hear the background and the buildup, you're like, what was it like to be a part of that? Now they've had some perspective. They've got a little distance. So I think Chad in particular, like in the beginning, it felt like he's describing himself like he was kind of buying into the like, I'm a bad teenager and this is just like what has to happen to me. And then he even said in the beginning, he was kind of doing okay with the therapy. We see the progression with Chad where he goes from kind of blaming himself and thinking that this is warranted, the way that he's being treated and the things that are happening to him really realizing this is not okay.
I purposefully said the wrong lines. I purposely tried to make my mom as pissed as she possibly could. I made things hard for her and I don't know why. I think it just goes back to I really didn't like being told what to do.
You think back to that first shot that you see of him in that first video that they do with the gender reveal, and he's just standing there and he's like, when it's like another girl, oh, sorry, Chad, you know. Then fast forward to he's a reluctant participant from the beginning. You can see from that. But then when the behavior and this therapy is turned on him in such a way that he internalizes it as thinking he deserves this.
Yeah.
But now seeing him out the other side and being like, yeah, no, I'm not having anything to do with her. And I think the daughter was really interesting as well because she was like trying to sound the alarm as this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting that she was able to step out of it before the actual police involvement.
Yeah.
That she had sort of that wherewithal to be like, yeah, I'm not participating in this and I'm getting out of this. I thought they were really interesting, but it's just tragic. It's just tragic because it didn't have to be this way. And you see these kids that now have no relationship with their mother and you're like, it didn't have to be this way, but you signed up to take part in this nutty thing with this nutty therapist and then just went off the fucking rails.
I actually think it was when they decided their children were employees where it especially went off the rails. And that was a long time before that. And Chad, Toby, was, quote, acting out. And we see him on camera just being a child, just saying, like, I don't feel like doing this right now. Like, I don't want to. And her saying, and her being very hard on him and saying, you know, basically treating him like a bad boss treats a shitty employee, like a bad boss treats anybody, or an employee they think is shitty. But he also is just behaving like a child and they treat it like an emergency, right?
Yeah, you know, I like literally my only experience with family vloggers is through Crime Writers On. So I'm not seeing the best practices, but it does seem that it's really about the parents, right? Like the kids are the attraction, but it's the parents who are driving the whole thing or whatever. And I feel like that is a difficult place to put your kids, because if you're relying upon them to create content and that's like sort of your goal, then yeah, they are employees, right? Whether you designate them that way or not, I mean, they may be your kids and you may love them or whatever, but you're relying on them to do a certain job for you that you can't do yourself, which is be a child and be cute and do kid stuff that's going to bring viewers. So it's not surprising that a kid would reach like puberty age and be like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And I could see where even a well-adjusted vlogging parent would be like, oh, fuck, this is going to be kind of a hassle. Like, how do we deal with this? But the way, you know, Ruby decided to deal with it is clearly not the way to do it.
Right.
And I've got to watch something about like a family vlog that like doesn't end in like fucked up kids and, you know, duct tape apparently seems to be a recurring theme in these things because it just seems super grim.
Yeah. What do you think about the Chad and Sherry interviews, Kevin?
I also picked up right away that she was calling her parents by her first name. I will say, you know, like in the one we saw, An Update on Our Family, those kids that were all very young and they were not able to make informed decisions about their participation. And here these kids grew up fully immersed, and Sherry and Chad, like they got to the age where they could make up their own minds about to what extent they wanted to participate and in what moment. And that's part of like where the friction came from and like where some of this stuff starts to come undone for her. I mean, certainly it ends up leading to like they making a really bad decision about like how to parent Chad, that when everybody else finds out about it, like their whole empire crumbles. Like it would just be like, okay, well, Chad doesn't want to be in it and you should like move on from this point and like get a different kid or whatever the heck. But I'll just say, I agree with you. He's just acting like a typical shitty teenager.
He wasn't shitty. He was just being a teenager.
That's what I mean. Right. Teenagers getting, if you're a teenager, at times you're like, they're being snotty to you.
They don't want to fucking go.
Because that's what teenagers are,
but
right? They don't want to fucking go.
That's just how it is.
But the answer is not like send him into therapy with this other crazy woman and have him sleep on the floor. I mean, that's...
Because he made out with a girl.
Oh my goodness.
Can you believe it?
It's troubling.
He watched pornography. Well, you're going off
to... A teenage boy watching pornography?
Send him away for something? I
can't believe it. I can't believe it. So what this is really about, and I think this documentary really highlights it, is... And you see, by the way, you see this on HGTV shows as well. There's this aspirational dynamic that people love to watch because everyone is getting along. Everyone is having fun. The husband adores the wife and listens to everything she says with a loving face on. The children are perfect, act like they really want to be with their parents, whatever. This is a fantasy of a family. And what these videos are about is about creating that aspirational fantasy. You see it on HGTV all the time with, the Mars family, and they show their kids to an extent where they're not showing any shitty scenes with their very normal kids. They're only showing them when they're cute and eating pancakes, right? You saw it with Chip and Joanna, who I believe pulled back on the creation of their show because of their kids. One of their kids got a little older, and you kind of caught a couple moments where he was like this at the camera, and it was like, and then they really cut back on it. But a big part of their popularity is their aspirational relationship with their family, with their children. And you can't be aspirational when you're normal. And guess what? Everyone is normal. Like everyone is normal.
No, not everyone is normal.
Well, Chad's pretty normal.
Jodi's not normal.
That's true. Jodi, let's talk about Jodi. So, Laura.
Yeah.
This might be jumping ahead.
Okay.
But were Jodi and Ruby having a sexual relationship, you think?
Well,
I mean, that doesn't really matter really in the long run, but it certainly is a point of curiosity.
It did sort of feel that way to me, but it sort of implied. But the reason that I would question and the reason that would even be relevant is the level of control and the enmeshment that occurred with these two, where it just became so all-consuming. Like, I would think logically there had to be more than just like this, we're co-creators and we're doing this thing together and like I'm her sidekick or whatever. Like, there's got to be some of that, like, okay, we're also this other thing going on and we have this like dopamine, like good brain chemistry, body, like hormone thing happening where that's why we're all acting so crazy. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. But it doesn't matter. Guess, in the way that
but brought up. So
I'm just kind of wondering because of the way, like the level of control and that level of like I'm going to say just total enmeshment.
Yep.
Well, I disagree. I think it does matter to the extent, I mean, beyond the thing about like they're holding themselves up as like these Christian moralists, sort of pious, right, into crying lust and everything. I think it's important for the context of who might be in charge. Are they equals, or is one following the other here? And I think that when it's sort of again, we are inferring a lot here, but I mean, other than like, the daughter saw one bed and a lot of massage oil, that if they are sort of equal with one another, as opposed to one being completely dominated by the other, that provides interesting context for the crimes.
Yeah.
And to that extent, I think that that's interesting. It's more than just titillating.
Toby, do you think that Jodi Hildebrandt was taking advantage of a mentally ill person and wasn't herself mentally ill? We saw her fake possession bullshit.
How do you know it was fake?
In there.
You don't think that was really the devil?
I don't. I'm sorry, I don't think
You don't think she was really possessed by the devil?
Do you think that, I mean, she lived in this giant mansion, yet she moved into their house. She pretended to be speaking in tongues and getting possessed by the devil in their pantry or whatever.
And she would start speaking in other voices.
She's mine. She's mine. She knows.
Clearly really, as you mentioned, it does become clear throughout the documentary that Ruby, not an excuse, is ill. So do you think that Jodi is taking advantage of an ill person, or that they are both ill and sort of like found each other and became enmeshed? I love that word, enmeshed, Laura. It's a good word for this.
I mean, there's no way of knowing for sure from the documentary.
Yeah.
One of my frustrations with this documentary is that it could very easily have been the story of how this one very mentally ill woman was enabled by all these people around her who should have been helping her, right?
Right.
At no point does Kevin say, this is kind of fucked up, like you shouldn't be doing this, or like maybe we should we need to go to counseling and like figure stuff out because the way you are treating the kids is like way out of bounds. So with Jodi, like it never seemed like I got a real sense of what she was like as far as this sort of out there religious stuff before she got into the Franke home. Maybe I'm just blanking on it, but I don't remember they're showing anything on her YouTube feed about her talking about exorcism or demonic possession or anything like that. It seemed to be just sort of like not super helpful self-help type stuff.
Your husband sucks stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's maybe like angry feminist or whatever. But I just have to assume that she's kind of in the driver's seat in this thing because, again, like you were saying, like she's faking demonic possession. Like she is trying to establish herself in that family as a figure of like power, possibly malign power if she needs an exorcism. But, you know, she's in the battle, right? She's in this like religious battle. Like her body is like part of that with demons and, you know, the angel Moroni or whatever the fuck is going on. So I feel as though, and I think you get the same thing from Chad. Chad's like, I really respected her. You know, I thought, you know, she loved, yeah, and all this stuff. So at the end, like it's hard to feel like really, really bad about a person who's like that incredibly abusive of their children. But, you know, I think, again, you could have made this series and it being more like a slipping through the cracks type of thing about this woman who just desperately, desperately needed help. And the people around her were unable or unwilling to see what was going on and take necessary steps that would have helped everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I just keep thinking about the doomsday prepper scenes when we see Ruby like stocking up for the latter days. Like it's like that's by the way a thing, you know, the latter days. That's why the Mormons own so much land around the countries because they plan on moving there when after in the latter days with their stores from all their supply closets from doomsday prepping, I guess.
They had big jugs of salsa.
Yes.
It was like how much like how much like restaurant
post-apocalyptic salsa.
Summer
Could
camp
never have enough
portions of it's like how much the chips are going to go stale long before you go through that salsa.
As I learned this week that Cape Cod chips go rancid if you don't eat them by their date.
Those
really?
Yeah, they're pretty old.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I wanted to ask you about, Kevin. We get at the end this police activity.
Yeah.
And it's very much done through these body-worn cameras again. So I'm in a convention that we're seeing more and more. How do you think that works here?
I thought they did a really great job with that. I think it's a good example of how you can do a TikTok with those kinds of visual elements. It was good that they had the police interviews to supplement what we're seeing. But I mean, what we saw was like really gripping. And I will also say that I think overall they made a good editorial choice to protect the identities of the younger children because they are minors. Even though their names are out there, it's in the public record. I don't know if the videos are still up, but anybody who watched knows what the younger 4 kids' names are. They are minors and they are entitled to privacy and the privacy that their parents never afforded them, especially as, you know, they are crime victims.
The highest achievers among us are the people still striving, still reaching for something. The people who aren't satisfied to stay where they are and want to keep climbing higher. And it's those people who approach the impossible and embrace it. There's a vehicle for people like that. It's called the Defender. The Defender is an icon, reimagined for a new generation of explorers through thoroughly modern design. Its interior is modern and functional, with rich material finishes and quality craftsmanship. When you're in a Defender, you can tell the interior is built for purpose. Luxury appointments throughout and practical storage options ensure you adventure in comfort. This is a vehicle capable of great things and engineered to meet challenges head-on. Wherever you're headed, experience the Defender's legendary capability, both off-road and on. And there's a family of vehicles for Defender. Meet the Defender 90, Defender 110, and the 8-seat Defender 130. Are you ready to embrace the impossible? Explore the Defender at LandRoverUSA.com.
If you don't know about our flyer deals on Instacart, this message is for you. Flyer deals are like strolling through your favorite store looking for deals, but instead, you're scrolling on your phone. Because getting delivery doesn't mean you have to miss out on in-store deals, like the creamer that doesn't upset your stomach, or the pasta sauce that you can't not buy when it's on sale. Download the Instacart app, shop flyers, and never miss a deal. Plus, get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke? Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Devil in the Family?
Yeah, I'm going to go mild thumbs up on this. I thought this was really interesting. Like, I'd followed this case a little bit when it was unfolding, and you're like, oh, that's so bizarre. But hearing, directly from some of the older children that were involved in this, hearing from her husband who was involved in this, and watching the police camera videos of some of the parts of this case as it was unfolding, I thought it was really interesting. I think it was interesting to have the religious angle with the Mormons, to have some context on this neighborhood that they lived in. But I think overall, it's a really tragic story about kind of what I see as like mental illness and what can happen when it goes unchecked and managed by the wrong person. So this is a mild thumbs up. I thought it was really interesting. It was definitely something that kept my interest as I was watching. And when I finished, I was like, okay, now I know something I didn't know before.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Devil in the Family?
I guess I'm a thumb sideways. I kind of felt as though they missed the boat a little bit about what was actually going on. I mean, I think you get a lot of sensationalizing things that happened that, in my opinion, were more the case of, somebody who's very mentally ill and who is just being enabled by all the people around her. So in that way, it seemed like a simple and fairly tragic story. And what they've done here is to take sort of the sensationalist aspects of it and sort of build those up. So, in the end, the facts are sort of not really in dispute, but I think the conclusions that are drawn are more in order to be sensationalizing or attracting viewers who would be looking for that kind of thing instead of what the actual problem really was, which is a little more banal, I guess. So it's well made and all that, but I just think they missed the boat. So I'm a thumbs sideways.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up here. There were certainly themes that we already explored in a recent documentary series, an update on our family. Again, a situation where you have a family vlogger and questions about privacy and like maybe not being really great parents here, but this is more elevated, I think. First of all, 2 weeks in a row, ABC Studios comes out with some really well put together documentaries. Certainly better than some of the things that we've seen the networks do before. In this case, I really like the way it explored a very troubling story, gripping from beginning to end, and it provided something that some of those other ones don't have, which is access to some of the family members and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of unseen video that can sort of start laying the breadcrumb trail to see how they got to where they were. I didn't know about this crime before, but I thought the way that it was told totally drew me in, and I am going to go thumbs up for Devil in the Family.
I'm thumbs up too, and Kevin, you just said why. It's the unseen video. What I liked about this documentary, and this is not much of a spoiler because it happens in the first couple of minutes of the documentary, there's this incredible moment that really shows you that Ruby Franke was not okay for a long time. This wasn't a situation where she was fine and then met somebody that drew her into an evil plot. She was ill. She was angry. She had trouble harnessing her emotions and feelings, and she was a bad mother, even when her kids thought she was being a good mother, which is very often the case, by the way. You're kind of used to what you have when you grow up, so you think things are normal. but she was screaming at her children. She was unable to regulate her emotions, and she clearly was very troubled. And I think that is an important aspect to this. I also do like the Mormon lens here. I do wish there was more of it. I've said this before on the show. When we have stories that involve Mormons, it's almost always about something a little extreme, whether it's FLDS or somebody that was drawn into like a sub, or like in this one, drawn in by a woman who sort of stoked up religious fervor. But there is something about the basics of Mormon culture that would make for a very interesting documentary where no kids are harmed, physically, where, all the other things are happening, because I think that actually feeds a lot of this and is, as we hear at the beginning, is the framework for it. So I wish there was more of that. That being said, I really enjoyed watching this. So it's a thumbs up for me for A Devil in the Family. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We do. So y'all know I love orange male cats. Mm-hmm. They are my personal favorite. Juju, a member of the Brichter Skill True Crime Rage Walk and Fitness Fun group on our Facebook.
For $6 a month? Or she's just a member of the Facebook group?
I think she's a member of the Brichter Skill.
Awesome, great.
And Juju sent in her friend Tina's cat, and his name is Alf. Red, but they call him Alf. He is having a bit of a rough patch. Alf's going to have some dental surgery. He's only got a few teeth left, but he's doing okay. And he loves his heating blanket, his summer house, which is a wicker basket, and feeling the breeze on the balcony. He was once a shy feral cat rescued from Russia, but now he enjoys a chicken dinner twice a day and is being spoiled rotten. Last week was his adoption-versary. So we know I love orange male cats, orange male former feral cats even more. So thanks for sending in Alfred. I hope his dental surgery goes well.
All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you, of course, they can always email us at crimewriterson@gmail.com or go to one of our Facebook groups. But if they want to find you online and submit any animal to be Cat of the Week, as we know, it doesn't have to be a cat, how can they find you online?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram. And somebody found me at the Exeter Polls voting this week.
Wow.
A Cat of the Week nomination. Wow. So you can find me and give me your nominations.
What about you, Toby Ball? How can you be found online?
At Toby Ball NH on Blue Sky.
What about you, Kevin?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
You can follow me everywhere. Blue Sky, Instagram. Yes, I'm still on X, but only for Karen Reed stuff. At Reb Lavoie. But please consider, if you're still, messing around with Meta, consider joining our Facebook group. It's fantastic. Just go find us on Facebook. We got a regular page. There's a link there on how to join the group. If you can literally name any one of our names, we will let you in. Get episodes early and ad-free at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You'll also get the after show and everything else we make back there. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons. Our editor is the wonderful, terrific Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our basement, where I also forced Kevin to attend Zoom meetings to be berated about the dangers of lust.
Not working.
Lust, Kevin.
Not working.
Lust. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you.
Get my beanbag table out.
Lust later. Frankly, a bad parent.
Hold on a second, because the vacuuming upstairs has gotten...
It's gotten very aggressive.
Yes.
His chair's moving around.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Want to wait a second?
Can you guys hear that?
No.
It's so loud.
Right at the part I was going...
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
It sounds like a chainsaw.
Like a buzzsaw, I know.
Oh, God.
That was crazy.
That's great.
All right.
Partners in Crime Media.